Back around Blight League, minion builds used to be the meta. The strongest builds at the time were using Skeletal Warriors and Spectres, but as the years went by, Skeletal Warriors ended up being forgotten. Skeletal Warrior builds are actually quite strong, but unexplored in today's meta. With Phrecia 2.0, we gained access to Puppeteer Ascendancy, which is the perfect ascendancy for Skeletal Warrior minions. The biggest problem with Skeletal Warriors is their clearing AI. Other similar minions, like Raging Spirits, have a much more aggressive AI by default, and also float, and spawn instantly, which has historically made them way better for clear. The Puppeteer Ascendancy is actually perfect in multiple ways. Firstly, it lets you get the Feeding Frenzy node, which makes skeleton AI way more aggressive, and also allows your skeletons to dash. Usually this was locked behind an aggressive minion wand, which was previously only accessible in the very end game unless you wanted to pay a really hefty opportunity cost. Another thing the class does very well is it opens up very easy crit scaling, which is normally hard for minions. It does so by setting your minion's base crit chance to whatever your wand's is. And thirdly, it has generic damage and both player and minion survivability. This makes it the perfect physical minion crit ascendancy class. This is Phrecia League, so additional modifiers and rage buffs were added, which means that making a strong defensive build is almost mandatory if you want to have fun. This build stacks multiple defensive layers. From the footage you can see that I'm actually doing tier 16.5s, and I'm doing them with quite a few damage mods and some map modifier effect, and I'm doing them pretty safely. The Ascendancy class provides perfect support for life in ES builds. With 4.5k life and 6k plus energy shield, your effective hit pool becomes quite high, but also creates a problem. You need to be able to recover both at the same time. Luckily, Ben's Burden of Truth belt does just that. By combining Supreme Decadence with a Forbidden Taste flask, we can have a flask that instantly recovers both life and energy shield with very minor downsides. The belt also makes it so that the damage is split between your life and energy shield, rather than only chunking only either life or ES. By adding endurance charges and extra maximum resistances to your big hybrid pool, you create a very substantial max hit protection. The flask, life regeneration, and energy shield recharge solve recovery problems. Then you add some block and armor on top of that, and then you have some very good multi-hit protection, so dying to many smaller hits is quite difficult. The build also runs Purity of Elements, so it is completely element immune. With such a heavy investment in defense, the build needs to find ways to deal damage. Crit scaling is normally very hard for minions, but with the Feeding Frenzy node from the Ascendancy, the fresh meat support, and a high critical strike chance wand, you can get a ton of minion crit, which is normally very hard to get. You can then use Grand Spectrums to scale the critical strike multiplier. Since skeletons are a physical minion, the damage type being scaled is physical. With support specters unable to permanently die, it is a lot easier to include them without fear, and they add a lot of damage. A perfect Blood Demon is used for Pride, Forest Tiger for Frenzy Charges and Haste, and a perfect Judgmental Spirit for the Discipline aura with the added benefit of providing some added fire and chaos damage to the skeletons. And finally, you can have a perfect Dancing Sword for some Impale scaling. Just like any other minion build in existence, generic plus to minions kill gems and minion damage are also used to scale the skeleton damage. Skeletons have a bit of a cheat code when it comes to single target damage because the Vol Summon Skeletons gem is actually very strong for single target damage, as it adds like 40 extra skeletons on top of the ones that are already existing. With all that being said, the AI and mobility issues are fixed with the Ascendancy, but the fact that Skeleton and Warriors are a melee minion is not. That's why it's very important to get an Explode AG set up as soon as possible. By running a Gravebind, Cane of Kulamok, and an Explode chest, the AG has a 70% chance to cause mobs to explode, and that creates a huge chain reactions the second a few monsters from the pack die. With an AoE gem and an AoE craft on the helmet, this ends up clearing a full screen at a time. With all that being said and done, I think that Skeleton Warriors are probably at their best in Phrecia. The build is actually still largely unfinished. There's a lot more I'd like to do with it in the future, and that's my intention for the rest of the event. Regardless though, I really wanted to make this video to show that there's still more to be discovered in terms of minion builds, and there's not many minion content creators left, and I really hope there's more minion builds in the future. But that's it for me.